Hello, I am Bogdan. It's great to see you again for this new webinar on the Action Form 3.6 release. This webinar will be recorded and it will be available, uploaded probably tomorrow. We also have in this call some of our staff. We have David Hogue, which is handling our sales in US, so he'll be able to answer questions in the chat. So let's get started. The first thing that I want to mention is our new licensing system, which you probably noticed. Basically, we've kept the previous model, but we also created another model that has 1 year of support bundled into it. The reason for that is we have two kinds of customers. We have customers that build one website and then they will not touch it for a few years until they need to do an upgrade. And we have customers that are looking for continuous development and they constantly need upgrades. So this one at the bottom is the previous model that we had. Same pricing, except we no longer have the server license. But we do support it for people looking to upgrade. We just don't sell it anymore because it's just not compatible with the cloud and all kind of this kind of setup. And the other model that we've created includes 1 year of support. And also one more thing about these two models is that renewing is much cheaper if you go with the 1 year of support. And we are trying to do this model to all our products, so it becomes easier for people to choose and to understand. I think we had this feedback many times that our licensing system is not clear enough, so we made this effort to simplify it. And then we, instead of the server license, we added the host license, which is activated for one DNN instance with up to 20 portals. So this is basically same model that DNN uses and other providers there on the store have. Okay, so let's get back to what's new in Action Form 3.6. First, I will give you an overview of the big points that we have. So one of the biggest points for us is the Evoke compatibility, because that opens up a path of collaboration between us and DNN Corp, and I think it's a great initiative. And it's great for Evoke customers to know that they have products out there that are supported, and also it's great for us to know that we can work on Evoke and be supported there, not just by us but by Evoke as well, by DNN staff as well. Next thing that you'll notice in Action Form 3.6 is that it's much faster because we did some improvements, some performance optimizations. When we did our DNN Lite optimizations, and if you don't remember or you don't know, we did this in December. We had a webinar showing how we got DNN 3 to 4 times faster than it comes out of the box, and we call that the DNN Lite, and it will also be something we're releasing in the next few weeks. Another thing that happened since last release, 3.5 release, is we created new add-ons. We created a new PayPal add-on because the PayPal integration that came with Action Form was quite old, and we received a lot of negative feedback that it was just very old code. It was at least 4 years old. So we did a new integration, and it's available as a separate add-on. And the integration now can do express checkout, but can also do payments on site to collect credit card information and communicate with PayPal transparently from the server side. And then we did a Weber integration. This is email marketing. We did Podio integration. This is like CRM software, and actually maybe I will show you that a bit later. And we did the electronic signature add-on, which lets you place an input control where you can sign on a touch screen or with a device, with a touch device. And besides that, we have a lot of new features and bug fixing. We received a lot of feedback on our forums, and most of the bugs we cleared out, and some of the features we included in this release, and more we have on our list for the next release. So let's look a bit at the new features. Which are the new features? But before proceeding, let me see if we have any questions. Okay, we have problems with the screen resolution again. Okay, so that's fixed. Let me check more messages in the chat room. So now what I will do, I will open a test instance and I will go through some of these features to show you what they do, how you can use them effectively. So let's start with the new controls that we've created. We have a drop-down with checkboxes control, very neat, and a Google Charts integration. So now I will create a multiple choice drop-down with checkboxes control. And this on the backend in the administration is almost identical to the standard drop-down control. Except on the client side, it does this nice drop-down where you can select multiple items and you can close it and you'll have the selection here. Yes, this is one, and the other one is the Google Charts control. It's located under Statistics, Google Chart. And what this control does, it basically lets you grab some HTML code from Google and just paste it into the control. Let's grab, for example, some GeoCharts. So you can just grab all the code and paste it here. You can also pass tokens here, so you can feed your own data. Right now it comes with some test data. And the result is that we have a chart here with the data that we sent. Okay, let's move on. Another new feature is that we added an action to send a plain text file to download in different formats. So now you can build a CSV or XML or TXT or HTML or any plain text file. You can build it on the fly and send it to the client browser for download. So let me demonstrate this feature to you. I'll start with a new button and add an action that is located under message, send plain text as file download. Yes. And here we can give a file name and extension. Here we could use tokens to compute the file name, and then we have to select a file type. We can select one of these file types, CSV, or we can click this expression button here and type another file type. I think we can either type the MIME type or the file extension. I think they will both work. I think in the end what it uses is the MIME type because it's passed to the browser along with the response. Of course, you can also set the headers. You can put a content type header and override that to whatever you require, and you can actually append any number of headers. And next is the actual file content. So let's say name, let's say age, And here I'm doing a CSV file. I'm Bogdan, and I am, let's say, 20. And then you can force the download, because sometimes, the browser will open the file inside the browser if it's configured to open it. So, like, if you send a CSS file or if you send a TXT file, it will most likely open it inside the browser. And with this checkbox here, you can force the browser to download the file. Okay. So, and here, of course, here you can actually use tokens. I see we already have a few more questions. If we are able to force download of a PDF file as well. Let me demonstrate this and I'll get back to you. So now if I click the submit button, I will get a file download, which is a CSV file, and I will have inside my first name that I'm logging with a super user and my real age. Sending a PDF file, I think we can, if I remember correctly, we had this feature at some point. Let me just check if there is a redirect action that says redirect send file to download. Okay, and I see we don't have this option. Yeah, so I think this would be the place where you would send a PDF to download, because that's how you would you'd give the PDF. PDF is not something you generate on the fly, but I think that's a very good feature request, and we can add it to our list to force the download here. Let's move on. Next, we added the query string tokens. So if you have worked with our modules with MyTokens, especially the query string token, and if you are building like more advanced forms that are data-driven, most likely you use this token. And this comes with MyTokens, but we received many requests to make it available in Action form, so people don't have to buy MyTokens just for this token. And we added in, so now you can use the query string token. And I will use it to demonstrate the next feature actually. The next feature is the option to enable fields based on a condition. So if probably you've played with this feature where you can programmatically show or hide a field based on a condition, on a server-side condition. And in the server-side condition, you can use fields, you can use tokens. So I could say, for example, if super user or super, I don't know, I can create a condition like this, that when it's true, so this is basically C# syntax, when it's true, the field is displayed in the form, otherwise the field is not displayed in the form. Yeah? So you can build conditional logic in the forms. And now we added this other option to enable fields conditionally. So let me show you how this works using the query string token that I promised. I will show you. So basically the first part works like a data source name or like a namespace. So the query string tells Action form that it looks for a value in the URL. And the second part, after the double colon, says to look for a parameter name ID. And we can put maybe something like this. If there is a query string parameter ID that is greater than 0, then we will enable this field. Otherwise, it will stay disabled. So now you see we have this text box and it's disabled. And if we put a parameter here, ID equals 7, this time the text box is enabled. So this condition works identical to the show condition that we already supported. Okay, let's move on to other features. One feature that it was very easy to implement, but it caused so many support questions, is how to just execute a token. So many people that use my tokens, they don't use the tokens just to pull data, but they also use the tokens to execute some logic. For example, the tokens can be actually Razor scripts, or they can be SQL scripts that do something. And there were cases when people just need to execute a token without caring for the output. And the workaround that we usually gave them is just use any action that doesn't have any consequences, that doesn't affect the functionality of the form. Like usually I would recommend this inject form data and just use whatever here and just use the token in the value. Do something. So this was what I recommended to the people as a workaround, but we added this as an action. Now it's under code, execute token. So we added it as an action, so it's easier to just say do something without being concerned that there might be some side effects of that. Yeah. We also did a lot of work around the single file upload field. What we did, we added this a mechanism to limit the file types that are allowed for upload. So here we could specify a list of file extensions, but also limit the file size that can get uploaded. And then another major piece of development that we did, we integrated this single file upload control, we integrated with the folder providers from DNN. So previously this upload field was able to only save files on the local disk. But now it knows to work with the DNN folder providers to send files wherever the provider is set to store them. So that's another thing that we did. And we did some more work on the data bindings, and actually I don't have all the changelog here. Actually there were more of them. So you know, the on-change handlers, they do the same thing as the show conditionally does, but on the client side. So you're actually using a JavaScript expression to determine if a field is visible or not. And actually there are a few different bindings. What I was talking now about was the show binding. Yes. So we could say here if let's say text box, sorry, equals, I don't know, something. So this field will only show if the text box, and this would be the ID of a field I'd added, which is called text box. Okay, but I've added the condition on same field. This doesn't make, no. I just added here. So I just say text box equals something. So this is a JavaScript condition here. This token here will actually get replaced with the AngularJS model that is bound to the text box. So that's why it works on the client side, and it works as I type. Of course, my text box is disabled. I'd have to enable it first, and then write something, and then the file would appear or disappear. Yeah. So what we did, we went over many other controls that didn't support all of this, and we fixed them and make everything work consistently. And also we did some more work around validators. We just added a new validator for positive numbers. But the validation piece will probably have some major work done in a future release. Okay, so I think that was about the 3.6 release. Of course, I think there's a bit more under the hood than I was able to explain. But the 3.6 is out, it has been out for 1 week, and we already have some hard fixes already in the download section to download on the 3.6 release. And now I want to give you a bit of overview on what's next for Action Form. So we already started working on the 3.7 release because we have a few add-ons that we are working on that have been sponsored by some clients. So we have the EasyDNN News integration, where you'd be able from the Action Form to post in the EasyDNN News. You'd be able to post articles and you'd be able to post events. And work on this too has already begun. And then we have the CK editor. This is becoming an increasingly popular request on our forums to integrate with CK editor. So I think we haven't started working on this, but I think it will happen. It will happen soon enough. Next, we have some development to do around the drop-downs. So one of the feature requests is that there should be a connection string for drop-down. So you'll be able to connect to different databases, and we already began work on that as well. And we're actually changing, so you know, the data source drop-down in the, let me show you, it will be easier to explain. So this data source drop-down would also contain a SQL query entry, which here, instead of the item, we show a place where you can add the query, but also another text box where you can input the connection string. Yeah, so it's no longer like a magic string. So right now you have to type the magic string here, something from something. This is a magic string for Action Form to try to interpret this as a SQL. So that will not longer be the case. You will no longer be required to put that magic string, and it will also work with stored procedures and stuff like that. And also a feature request to link the dropdown through SQL queries. And I think the bigger story here is to have events that run on other events than clicking a button. So right now the only way to get to the server is when you click a button. We'd have to implement some events that when you change a dropdown, for example, you can also execute a list of actions, for example. So I think that's the biggest story around that. And finally, we have another popular feature request to create forms from database tables. That is a simplification, is an optimization actually of the process of setting up a data-driven application, where you'd have to create fields that match one-on-one with database table, and it's just a tedious task to do that. And Action Form could automate that and also create the action to do the insert back into the database when the button is clicked. I have some questions here. Let me address them. So one of the questions is, for the dropdown using a query, is there a way to define which column from query should be used as text and which one should be used as value? Right now the columns need to be in a certain order. Yes, I think they will be used in a certain order. So you can specify in the list of select, in the select list, which the first parameter should be the text and the second the value. So I don't think you could do it otherwise, but unless you are using maybe a stored procedure, I don't see why you would need to select many fields and just specify which one is the text and which one is the value. Another question is that also including a where function based on another drop-down. Yeah, so I'm assuming what the question here is comes from the same topic on our forum from where we derive this feature request, and that is you have one drop-down, and when you change it, you add another drop-down to run a SQL again to get new data, fresh data. And if I understood correctly, that is the requirement, and yes, that will be part of linking this through dropdowns with SQL. I think I can also announce a 4.0 release. We don't have any date scheduled yet, but we already started experimenting with something new that will be the foundation of 4.0. We are exploring a new skinning engine based on AngularJS. So right now the skinning engine in action form, and I can actually show you that. I can show you, for example, how we created the Google chart control. So basically, if you go to Dexter modules action form folder, you'd find some templates folder, form folder, bootstrap folder, and this is actually the form templates based on which all the control renders. So for example, the Google chart, it will just call this XSL template to produce some HTML code that displays the chart. Yeah, so actually the magic string is probably this one, where it just displays the HTML code that has been sanitized, like stripped down of HTML tags and stuff like that. And the other part is going into the config folder. So again, in the action form folder, there is a config folder. And in config folder, you have the input types folder. And here you'd have a entry for each input type that you see. Let's take, for example, the other control, the dropdown with checkboxes. And this is a XML configuration file. And you can see some metadata, and the parameters that you see in the UI are defined here. So all the UI in action form, by the way, is automated. So all the, actually maybe not all, but most of it is automated. Like this dropdown with checkboxes, it has a horizontal parameter, it has a link to parameter that you know to link to dropdowns, values, and so on. So all the parameters that you see are defined in this configuration file. And this is a way how you can also create new controls. So if you want to create new controls, you just create an XSL file, place it in the form bootstrap controls folder, and then you create a config file. And in config file, let's take the touch signature for example, you'd also need a magic string to link the configuration file to the XSL template. For the built-in controls, we already do that automatically, but if you want to add your own control, you need that line to tell which one is the template. And we are changing that in a way that all the form will be rendered with AngularJS. So we'll no longer use XSL template. And we are actually experimenting with this engine for a new module that we're preparing, a content module. And it's been working great because the performances differences are huge. So because all the UI is built on the client side, we just pass the data, the JSON data, to the client side, and the rest gets built on the client side. The only problem of doing that is, of course, the search engines, which some of which don't know to execute JavaScript. Google knows nowadays, will execute fine JavaScript. But actually in this content module, we are implementing a fallback mechanism to XSL or to a server-side template. We'll support more than XSL on the server side. We'll also have like HTML templates with tokens or Razor templates. So this will be the foundation of Action Form 4.0. All the form will be built with AngularJS on the client side. So before we end this webinar, I just wanted to show you a simple example. I know that maybe some people in this webinar are far more advanced than that, but I want to show you an example how we use Action Form in our everyday activities to automate some tasks and help us with what we do. And I will show you our contact form. So the contact form, you think it's something simple, and it is. But what we did, we tried to automate some of the tasks because we have a CRM system and we have a help desk system. So we wanted that data from this contact form would go to our CRM. So let's look at the button, for example. Yeah. The first thing that we do is we try to get the location of the user, and we use a free service for that, Telis.com. So based on that, we would maybe assign it to different people, to different sales people. And this service would get us a JSON, and then we use a regex action to parse the JSON into city and country. Yes, and then we just send the email with all this data. We send it to our support address. And then also I forgot to mention that we have this checkbox here to ignore errors. So if the IP location fails for some reason, because we are using a free service, we cannot expect it to be very reliable. But we don't care that much to capture country and city for everyone. If it fails, we just proceed with the rest. And the rest is sending in the email, and then we use Podio. So we use this integration with Podio to create the contact on the Podio and to create a help desk item or assign an opportunity and stuff like this that we do in the CRM system. And it's all automated. So right now, if I go and fill a form, we get an email, and we get an email that I see that the country and city are filled in. And we also get, probably on our help desk, we also get an entry automatically added there. Yeah, so we have a hello world here. That was automatically created by our contact form. Yeah. So this is the kind of stuff that we do with action form to automate everything and make it easy for us to manage our business. So I think that was it, but before I end this webinar and maybe we take more questions, I want to also send special thanks because we have many people helping us every day, and some help us by being involved on our forums and helping everyone. And for that I want to give special thanks to Jerry Mattels. He's been helping quite a few people on our forums. But there are many others also that help. And then I want to thank Dieter Vieren, I hope I got it right. He's been funding the file download feature that you saw. And then Hans Lenting, he's also giving us very good feedback, and he's also patient with us with explaining what he wants, what he needs. And also he contributes with localization files. And recently he posted a very nice blog article on DNN Store on how he built a project with our modules. And actually I think it was very interesting. If you haven't read this article, I think you should. So basically here I see he used the action form, and then he also used action grid with a Google chart integration, probably to show some data from the grid. Very interesting. And the same for Aaron Lopez. He's been building with action form. Yeah, also very interesting article. You should read it. And I think Aaron had a huge success with our PDF generator add-on. With the PDF generator, you can just create some HTML code, and it will get transformed to a PDF file. So you can create an HTML with tokens and everything, and it will get transformed into a PDF file. So I also saw this. I connected in a support session with Peter from 40 Fingers one day, and I saw that he built an invoice system in the same way with Action Grid, Action Form, and the PDF generator add-on. And Richard Fletcher. Richard has been our client, I think, for 5 years, and he's funding at least maybe 10% of the features that we have. He's always doing that. And also Nathan Boats, he's also helping people on our forum, and recently he's also sponsoring some new interesting features. And then Albert Frausto, they also invest a lot in Action Form, and they sponsor the EasyDNA news add-on that I just told you about. So I think it will be out in a few weeks. So that's all I had. Let me check if there are more questions. Any plans to connect Zoho CRM? We don't have plans to do these add-ons until somebody sponsors their development. Thing is that it's not a very big market for add-ons. I think that's the truth, and it's not very profitable for us to invest time in add-ons. So then I think almost all, if not all, of the add-ons have been implemented sponsored by clients. So I think if you need a Zoho CRM, we can talk about that. Okay, so let's see, do we have more questions? Okay, so one final question. We have somebody asking about the edit capabilities in Action Grid. So yes, we have a major Action Grid release coming out. We integrated a form builder into Action Grid, so you can basically include forms inside the grid. And the basic scenario that we want to support with that is like you have a product listing, and you have like a quantity field in each of the items, and you just fill them in and click a button, and it will add all of them. It will do something with all of them. So that would be like a basic scenario. It will not be inline editing functioning, like to transform all the grid in a Excel-like. That's a different story. We also have it on our development list, but we didn't get there yet. Another question, is it possible to integrate place autocomplete address from Google? I think yes, I think anything is possible, and like I told you earlier, the best way for this kind of integration to happen is to sponsor for them. So I think that would be the ideal case. If not, you can just post them on our forums, and of course if there are a lot of people that are interested in some particular integration, we'd implement it sooner or later. We have a lot of stuff in our backlog for development, at least a few hundred years of development. We'll see how much we can get done in the next few months. So thanks again for being in this webinar, and I will see you next time.